We now turn to events on Earth 2. Events appear to be stuck in a state of extended chaos. When we checked in this morning, jacketless Jim Jordan appeared to be heading for a third speaker vote. That effort quickly fell apart. They pulled the plug when Jordan said he was going to take a pause and support temporarily empowering Congressman Patrick McHenry for speaker. He's the temporary one. Only to again see that, I guess we're on plan D, E, fell apart. So now Jim says to expect a third vote for him after all. And now he's behind closed doors meeting with the 22 GOP holdouts. Some of them have been at the other end of some very public, very aggressive, very threatening pressure campaigns, as have their spouses. Multiple Republican lawmakers have reported receiving menacing calls of intimidation to get them to vote for jacketless Jim. Some even received death threats after breaking with Jim Jordan. One congresswoman said she received, quote, credible death threats and a barrage of threatening calls, end quote, after she switched her vote to another Republican in the second round of voting. One thing I cannot stomach or support is a bully admitting that she will not be intimidated. Joining us now, former Congressman from Florida and MSNBC political analyst David Jolly. We're trying to get Ali Vitale up as well. David Jolly, I know why I have a visceral rejection of Jim Jordan, and it precedes his role in overturning the results of the 2020 election. But tell me why they hate him, the 22.
Yeah, in many ways, it is a culmination of the evolution of the Republican Party to where it is today. And so those who remember a previous party are the ones saying, wait a minute, Jordan cannot be our speaker. And here's why. Jordan emerged just before the Tea Party in 2010 and helped usher in this brand of conservatism that believes government is the enemy. They have to shut it down. They are anti-institutions. And so the disconnect here, the dissonance is you have a caucus largely now, a majority of the caucus that is against government and governing, and they don't want to do it. And yet you have those very people now saying, but give me the keys to the institution of the House of Representatives. And it's this quixotic moment where we now get to see the culmination of a modern Republican Party that says government is the enemy, but trust us with the keys. You still have people that have come along through the more traditional elevation of politics, particularly in the Appropriations Committee and in some of the normal governing committees that have said Jim Jordan has opposed everything that government has required in the past 15 years. Why should we now trust him? That's why this impasse is very different than McCarthy's. McCarthy's was this ideological battle against the Matt Gaetzes of the world, if you want to call it ideology. This now is an institutional battle. And there are enough Republicans who have said, wait a minute, we have a responsibility to govern. And frankly, as Republicans, we can achieve conservative results by governing, but we achieve nothing by shutting it down or by going speakerless. Jordan and Gaetz might be okay shutting it down and going speakerless, which is why this moment is something we've never seen before.
Here's another thing I want to pull into this conversation. I'm wrestling with whether or not I want to play this. I'm still thinking about it, but Jordan is a proxy for Donald Trump and Sean Hannity. And even if Jim Jordan wins, he will only win because the bullying and the public shaming and the death threats and the attacks to members' spouses were so vitriolic that in the end you can only chalk it up to fear. Right? Kevin McCarthy already gave everything away. There was nothing left to give away. So if Jim Jordan becomes the speaker, it's because Sean Hannity has been on the air since, I'm going to play this for the purpose of showing the public pressure campaign that's been waged by Republicans against Republicans.
My choice for chairman, my choice for speaker, the best option I think we have is Jim Jordan, the Ohio congressman. Now, I do believe he could and should garner the full support of the GOP conference.
Jim Jordan has now thrown his hat in the ring, and I'll be very upfront. Jim Jordan is my choice to be the next Speaker of the House. I think Jordan would be a great speaker myself.
I do have to chuckle that a few of my questions, simple questions, that I asked to some Republicans over the weekend about the importance of getting a speaker as soon as possible showed we have a few sensitive little snowflakes in Congress.
Jolly, I've made this point before. What Republicans do to Democratic lawmakers is heinous. What they do to each other is almost as bad, but they deserve it, right? Because they're all in with this MAGA Republicanism. What happens now is that should Jim Jordan become the speaker, he will not be loyal to the 22 holdouts he's in a room with right now. He'll be loyal to Sean Hannity and Donald Trump. And so I guess from a vote building, a support building perspective, can those 22 be bullied? That's the only question on the table.
I don't think they can. And in fact, in many ways, what Hannity has done and Trump and Jordan is having the reverse impact, where it has caused these members in opposition to Jordan to dig in harder. The night that email from Hannity's producer went to some of the members that were holding out, I spoke with a member who received it, and it had exactly the opposite impact. And here's why. It was so disingenuous. Hannity's producer said, at a time when the world's on fire with Israel, blah, 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 we have to open the government, and Jordan's the way to do it. They didn't actually care about governing. They cared about putting Jordan in the job, but they were using world affairs at a time that Republicans created this crisis for themselves to suggest that now Jim Jordan must be the answer, and you're opposing all things the world needs by opposing Jim Jordan. It simply doesn't work. Here's where it's also a proxy for Trump, though, Nicole, and I think this is the gravity of the moment. If Jim Jordan is speaker, the House becomes a vessel to steal the 2024 election. Donald Trump knows that. Jim Jordan knows that. Jim Jordan said at CPAC last year, I'm going to impeach Joe Biden so that we can get Donald Trump back to the White House. We know his planning around January 6th. We know his role in trying to overturn the 2020 election. Jim Jordan, as Speaker, would use the House as a vessel to steal the 2024 election. It is why this is not Hakeem Jeffries or the Democrats' problem to solve for the Republicans. They need to stand their ground in this moment, let Republicans continue to implode. And then if there's a deal to be made, it's with a much stronger hand than we would have seen 3 weeks ago or even this week.